We know that the UK state of economy is in absolute shambles right now. No better way to see it than what we're going to see right now. Let's get into it. Let's hear it.
Basically, if you're poor, move out of London, move somewhere else in the country, and that's your only choice.
Have you heard of this before?
I haven't. I've heard stories, but I've never seen it so in black and white, written down, this is what we're saying. Essentially, although they've glossed over it with some nice words, but you should be telling families that they need to uproot their lives, their kids' schools, your place of work and everything, and move, otherwise we're not helping you, I'd go as far to say as an abuse of power, because these homeless individuals are at your mercy. And the fact you're treating them like this, I think it's subhuman. The fact that the council are trying to then use this as a way of absolving themselves of responsibility over those that are homeless is a huge failure of not just this council, but I'm sure there's other councils around the country that would be willing or thinking about doing the same. It's a complete failure. I think anyone with this attitude and these sorts of attitudes shouldn't be working in the public sector, never mind a homelessness department. I understand we're in the middle of a housing crisis. I understand there's a shortage of social homes, but it costs absolutely nothing to treat people as human beings and with basic human respect and decency. And it's happening far too often where these homelessness departments and these housing departments aren't doing it. I absolutely think there needs to be reform in the behaviour and attitudes towards how homeless people are treated in this country.
Absolutely spot on. I love this man's point of view. It costs nothing to be empathetic and understand the plight of people going through tough times. It happens so much with these council workers. I think they're actually trained in some way to act as humanless as possible. It's a disgusting attitude, to be honest, and you wouldn't expect it from people that work in council, but the worst kind of attitude actually comes from them. There is a lot of times when people that are becoming homeless or are homeless and they're looking for places, there have been so many stories online of somebody that's been evicted from their home and the council have offered them a place 200 miles away or something from their original home. And if they don't accept that position, they are intentionally making themselves homeless. It's ridiculous and it's bizarre, and they push this rhetoric again and again. There is zero empathy with this, and it is absolutely disgusting behaviour from these guys.
I don't normally talk about cost of living, but today I need to rant. So it's summer holidays. Me and my husband are both teachers, so we're off with our children, which is great. We're really lucky that we get to spend that time with them. And obviously we have to budget to an extent because each time you leave your house, it is just so expensive to do anything. Today we had to go and pick up my in-laws' dog. We are looking after their dog for a couple of days. And near there is a lovely little cafe at a farm shop. So we thought, you know what, let's go and get the dog and let's just go for a little cake, cup of tea or whatever. We met some friends there in the end because they were free and it was really nice, having a good time. We ordered, blah, blah, blah. And then when we went to pay, my daughter had a slice of cake, my son had a chocolate brownie, my husband had some other little cake. I had a tea, he had a coffee, they had hot chocolates. So 4 drinks, 3 cakes, £37.50. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, what? And then we decided to go for a walk with the dog and our friends, and it was really, really nice. Obviously, it was a bit rainy today, but it was quite warm. And we did this really long, nice walk, and there was a pub right at the end. So our friend was like, oh, you know what, let's just go and have a quick drink before we say bye-bye. And we were like, yeah, it's summer holidays, whatever. We should have learned our lesson from this £37.50 in the cafe. So we go to the pub and we get a drink each. We didn't even get drinks for the children. We said, no, you can have your water bottles. And they had a packet of crisps each. So 2 packets of crisps and 2 drinks, £17. So all in all, we've spent over £50 just for leaving the house, just a cafe and a pub. And it wasn't even, it was cake, it was treat stuff. And now I just feel like that's their treat for the summer. I feel like that's it. That cake and that packet of crisps, I am done. I'm done basically leaving my house because it's just so crazy out there. I just cannot believe how quickly that money disappeared. It was just a rant. I just had to rant today.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Every time you leave the house, money's going out of your wallet right quick. To be honest, a lot of these places are saying the same thing time and time again. Materials everything, wage, whatever, right? Everything else is going up. The problem is that our wages aren't going up, and we know that teachers are notoriously underpaid in the first place. You know, they get good holidays, that's really about it. And to be able to, you know, keep your money, you have to be so stringent by just not going out and having a good time, because £30 here, £40 there, £15 there, you know, as she said it, she spent 50 quid on basically nothing, like just going out for a little bit, having 2 treats in the day basically. You can't even do that anymore, because if she goes and spends every day that she's on holiday, it's 50 quid every day basically, just to treat herself and her friends and her family, just having a little bit of this and that. I don't blame the restaurants and pubs and stuff like that, but my god, it is insanely expensive nowadays just to go out and just have a little treat. If you've stuck around this far, I really do appreciate you watching. It would mean a lot to me if you subscribed, hit that like button. Won't bug you anymore, let's get into it.
UK economy is on its knees, and I know it sounds cliche, but the UK is going to pieces. There is now literally no reason why anyone who has a thriving economic business would locate to the UK and create jobs in this country. And we're seeing that with the current status of the job market, where it's so competitive because everyone is competing for both skilled jobs and unskilled jobs. I've seen comments from people that say they're having to go through 4-round interviews for a job that pays £25,000 a year. And you've got jobs that pay £23,000 a year asking for bachelor degrees, and some are even asking for masters. So people are overqualified going into a pool of candidates that is completely saturated, applying for jobs that don't actually pay a living wage. And that pretty much sums up life in the UK right now. And with so many things going wrong in this country, it seems like the only guarantee or the only sure thing is you creating your own path. That essentially means finding a way to make money that's outside of your job, that you are in more control of. With the rise of social media, there are so many ways now to make money online. From selling physical products, through to doing affiliate marketing, from getting paid for UGC to getting paid for creating content for TikTok, IG and YouTube. And I think more and more people are being pushed against a wall. They're between a rock and a hard place, and they're having to turn to methods of making money that they hadn't thought of previously. But seriously, if you're watching this video and you haven't already tried to start making money outside of your job, or if you're unemployed and have been for a while, consider starting to make money online. Go on my page, look at my previous...
Alright, I think he's trying to send a message here, probably trying to market himself a little bit. But the message is pretty clear there that we're finished here. It is true, a lot of people are kind of doing dual jobs. Most people are trying to work some other job. I mean, I, for example, had the Amazon app for a little bit, looking at doing delivery driving and stuff like that. Every day you would look at the job offers, the schedules that would be there, they would all be gone pretty much. Everybody's trying to create a little bit of money somewhere just so that they can meet their bills or have a little bit so that they can spend a bit more. It's getting really tough out there right now, and you know, people are going through a lot of stages of interviews just to get minimum wage jobs. Essentially, a 25k job is a minimum wage job in this country right now. So it's really tough, to be honest, scraping by. And yeah, most people are trying to look at other ways of creating income, this channel included.
Something like 86% of people in the UK who are working have less than £1,000 in savings.
Yeah.
I mean, 86% of working people is about 44 million people in the UK have less than £1,000 in savings. Like, that's legit. Like, it's so crazy.
But what really scared me is another report came out that said 1 in 2 adults were financially illiterate. That's 50% of the population, and that includes teachers as well as parents, which is so scary.
This also includes people that are over the age of 40 as well. You know, this is a crazy amount of people that are not only financially illiterate, but they barely have any savings. A lot of people, as surprising as it is, when you're driving your flash car, you're going on holidays, whatever you're doing, you are still broke and you're living paycheck to paycheck. If you don't get paid next month, you cannot pay your bills, it's all over, it's game over. That is the reality for a lot of people, unfortunately. And that's just the way this economy is right now, because it's completely broken. Yes, there are financially illiterate people that are making decent money, but the combination of being financially illiterate and not having money as well and struggling paycheck to paycheck is a deadly combination. The only way really out of it is to educate yourself, because the system wants you to stay poor, unfortunately. HMRC and the council don't care if whether you're rich or poor. You've got to pay them regardless with the tax and the council tax. So you have to make something of yourself.
Is it just me, or does anybody else feel like this country is a shithole right now? Seriously, look at it. Nothing works. Boarded up, broken shops everywhere. Schools that are falling down. Teachers buying their own supplies. Hospitals falling down. NHS waiting list, so you're basically going to be dead before you're cured. No social housing. Council house waiting lists 14 years. Shit in the rivers and in the seas. It's a horrible place. And the Tories are like, yeah, we want to cut your taxes. No, I want to spend more on tax, but in return for that, have better services, fewer potholes, better hospitals, better healthcare, better mental health care, more social housing, better education for the kids, more high quality schools. The thing is, this has all been a political choice. You notice that the Tories, they don't give a shit. They really don't care. I'm not pretending that any other party will be any good, or much better anyway. They're all out for themselves pretty much. And it's just a shame. We used to be such a good country. You look back to 2012, year of the London Olympics. The country was together. It was a great year. It was a great time. The Tories, although they were in power, hadn't wrecked the country yet. And everything just had a good air and a good vibe and a good feeling and positivity about it. Now it's so negative. It's so negative. Am I right? What else do you think's wrong with this country? Let me know.
I think the problem is, and I do agree with this fellow here, that no matter what political side it's on, they have completely looted this country and left it on its knees. You know, at the end of the day, you need to understand what your tax is being used towards, and it baffles me. What is the tax being used on? Because, as he said, NHS down the toilet, on its knees, and that's not due to the staff. You know, doctors and nurses are working what they have, and they are amazing. But it comes from the top down, doesn't it? If you're not there to support the workers, they can only do so much with what they have. The waiting list, the emergency room, A&E is horrible. To be honest, at this point, I would rather just die than go to an A&E waiting room, because it is horrible, some of the state that they're in. You know, minimum 5 to 8 hours just to see a doctor, sometimes even longer than that if you've got a real medical emergency. You're going to be dead if you had a real medical emergency by that point. It is what it is. I don't know if there's much you can do about it, but hopefully this sheds some light on some of the things we've seen today. Like I said, if you enjoy, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.